groundwater is a significant part of Morocco's water potential. It plays a key role in the socio-economic development of many regions and offers advantages such as better quality, good spatial distribution, ensured regularity, ease of access and use, in addition to low mobilization costs. All these benefits often expose groundwater to intensive exploitation, sometimes anarchical, without any compliance with regulations. During the last 3 decades, groundwater resources have been subject to high pressure, which led, in many regions, to a significant drop in piezometric levels, setting off a process of quality degradation and an alarming intrusion of the saltwater wedge into coastal aquifers.
Les ressources en eau souterraines ont joué un rôle très important pendant les années les plus sèches et ce sont des ressources en eau faciles à exploiter. Et c'est pour cela qu'ils sont facilement surexploitables. Donc on assiste au cours des dernières années à une surexploitation de la plus grande partie des nappes au royaume. Cette exploitation est combinée avec les effets de sécheresse et donc on recense une vingtaine de nappes où on prélève annuellement près de 1 milliard de mètres cubes dans les ressources en eau non renouvelables.
A program of artificial groundwater recharge was implemented by the Water Department with a twofold objective: attenuating the serious decrease in groundwater levels caused by overexploitation, while fighting against the alarming intrusion of the saltwater bevel into coastal aquifer and constituting strategic groundwater reserves. A national survey was conducted by the various water basin agencies and the regional water directorates to identify opportunities for artificial groundwater recharge. No less than 24 of this groundwater are experiencing a continuous decrease in their piezometric levels and may be subject to this treatment. Some of them are located near the coast and are already salinized. The implementation of artificial recharge would restore the balance of this groundwater or, at least, reduce the occurring deficits. Artificial groundwater recharge is related to the availability of surface water resources in terms of both quantity and quality, the ability of the underground reservoir for recharge, which depends on the thickness of the non-saturated zone in unconfined groundwater, the thickness and structure of the saturated zone in addition to the physical parameters and the soil type. Systems of recharge vary from one aquifer to another. Surface techniques based on infiltration, such as basins, floodwater spreading areas, canals, benches, ditches, river beds. Deep techniques using direct injection of water into the aquifer through wells or boreholes, and having the advantage of low space requirement, lack of location constraints, and injection into deep layers that are difficult to reach by infiltration. However, this method presents the inconvenience of limited recharge capacity, pre-treatment requirement, and high costs. At the international level, more than 140 experiences of artificial groundwater recharge were examined worldwide, mostly in the United States, Great Britain, and Germany. In over 61% of cases, the restoration, regulation, and storage of aquifer waters constitute the main objectives of the projects carried out. In 56% of cases, the geological formations receiving devices of recharge are alluvial and highly permeable. The most commonly used techniques of artificial groundwater recharge are drilling 49% and infiltration basins 27%. The cost of these artificial aquifer recharge operations vary considerably depending on countries and the methods used. Morocco is included among the first countries to have paid particular attention to artificial groundwater recharge. Experiments began in the last century, and since then, several methods have been used and are still operational today. The main achievements are those of Sharf al-Akab Susan House. Located a few kilometers south of Tangier, the groundwater of Sharf al-Akab has been exploited since 1957 to supply the city with drinking water. Its groundwater level has fallen promptly due to low renewal flows. The artificial recharge began in 1958 as part of the integrated management of underground and surface water resources with the view to secure the drinking water supply of Tangier. This water table has played the role of strategic reserve and regulation in the drinking water supply system. To cope with the high demand in summer, excess water is collected at the wadis of Mharhad and El Hashif in winter and injected into this water table. The piezometric level of the Sus groundwater, overexploited by farmers, decreased severely. To refill its reserves, an artificial recharge project was initiated in 1991 with the construction of the dams of Aulus, boasting a capacity of 108 million cubic meters, and Emi El Khang with 12 million cubic meters. To these dams were added 9 infiltration thresholds along Wadi Sus to enhance flood routing. The implementation of the groundwater recharge system of the Sus Tuka aquifer made it possible to reduce significantly the decrease in groundwater level. Nearly 2,000 million cubic meters were thus injected into the aquifer during the period from 1991 to 2009. An average of 100 million cubic meters per year, reducing in part the deficit of the local groundwater resources. Regarding the house groundwater, especially in its central part between Marrakesh and Wadi Nfis, the continuous decrease in the piezometric level is mainly due to the combined effects of intensive pumping to meet agricultural needs, water withdrawals for drinking water supply, and prolonged drought periods. As early as 1956, the opportunities of artificial groundwater recharge using excess water flows available at the various wadis of the region were tested in 2 ways. Infiltration of water coming from the dam of Lalla Takarkust through a series of settling and infiltration ponds located on the bank of Wadi Nfis. The experiment dealt with injecting, over 43 days, a continuous flow of 0.3 cubic meters per second. That is to say, a total infiltrated volume of 1.5 million cubic meters approximately. Infiltration of flood waters. This method involves the diversion of Wadi Sad streams along a former branch of the river, using small dikes for flood control and water diversion to this old branch, but without treatment of the riverbed, and the infiltration of flood waters from the wadis of Iminzat and Ramat at the thresholds built in their riverbeds. The system used for the groundwater of Bershid is the recent one. The purpose was to recharge the aquifer using water releases from the dams of Hammer and Mazar, located upstream. It is a multi-purpose hydraulic complex that integrates artificial groundwater recharge via a regional system involving several streams and combining various techniques, including injection wells. It offers the opportunity to contractor management in the area of aquifer recharge and the relevant technical issues. Under the National Water Strategy, artificial groundwater recharge is expected to reach by the year 2030 a volume of 200 million cubic meters distributed over 24 aquifers according to a predetermined plan of action.
Actuellement, on a la nouvelle stratégie qui a mis en place un certain nombre de plans d'action, dont notamment la préservation des ressources non naturelles. Alors pour ce qui concerne la préservation des nappes, sur les 20 nappes qui sont recensées, on les a classées par priorité. Donc les nappes qui sont les plus exploitées et qui se situent dans les bassins ou les agences les plus déficitaires, ce sont les nappes les plus prioritaires.
The implementation of an artificial groundwater recharge project is determined by the presence of an important non-saturated zone where the groundwater level must be deeper than 10 meters, a surface water with an acceptable quality to prevent polluting groundwater resources, an additional quantity of surface water not exploited by the various users. Each water basin agency is required to map the groundwater deficit in the area under its responsibility. Groundwater recharge contracts are set within the 2010-2030 program. The recharge of 6 groundwater is still under study. The groundwater of Sais, the groundwater of the limestone plateaus in the Middle Atlas, the groundwater of Nesra, the groundwater of Ramel in Laraj, and the groundwater of Bahira. The groundwater recharge contract, formulated by all the relevant stakeholders and the level of each water basin agency, aims to limit groundwater pumping thanks to implementing dissuasive pricing and upward revision of charges of using groundwater, establishing banned perimeters for overexploited groundwater and protection perimeters for aquifers that are in the process of overexploitation, require the use of water-saving techniques when granting pumping licenses, establishing well driller licenses to professionalize the business of drilling and digging wells.
On fait l'étude de la nappe, l'état actuel, et puis on fait la simulation dans le futur. Alors avec la simulation dans le futur, si on a des baisses actuellement, on surexploite. Si on continue à exploiter d'ici 10 ans, 20 ans, on va voir qu'il y aura un assèchement par la suite. Il y a des enjeux qui sont prévus. Il y aura des pertes des périmètres agricoles, il y aura la migration d'un certain nombre d'agriculteurs, donc il y aura la disparition d'un certain nombre d'activités sociales. Et donc pour faire face à ça, on met des plans d'action pour atténuer ou arrêter cette hémorragie. Et ces plans d'action sont faits en concertation avec les différents acteurs qui utilisent la nappe.
The measures to protect groundwater will be supported by strengthening the control and sanction system, strengthening the water police, strengthening water basin agencies, establishing a judicial system for the enforcement of sanctions, keeping at the regional and central level a register of water and wells drilling companies. The aquifer contract also includes the monitoring of groundwater levels, the mapping of pumping operations, and the measurement of the volumes pumped. It has now been established that the natural aquifer recharge will only occur if underground pumping is limited by strict supervision, including uninterrupted monitoring. Artificial aquifer recharge is at last resort for some groundwater. Quite often, it only slows the destocking of groundwater reserves rather than fully recovering previous levels. And yet, artificial recharge proves essential today, owing to the excessive deficit of most aquifers and the need to preserve this strategic water resource.